Good afternoon, Facebook viewers. My name is Brad Bodis, and welcome to the Bond and Bodis Law Office's Facebook Live. As you know, we do these episodes every Wednesday at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We try to have interesting guests every week to talk about topics that we think will be of interest to our viewers, and we absolutely have a special guest for you today. But before we get started, I want to remind you that at the Bond and Bodis Law Offices, we help people with money problems. We've been in practice for well over 30 years now. We have offices throughout Alabama and throughout Mississippi. And with this last year, with the pandemic we've been through, we are offering absolutely free initial consultations for anybody that is having money problems or fears that you may be having money problems in the future. It's good to be proactive. Our consultations, again, are absolutely free, and we'll do them from the safety and comfort of your own home or office, just like I'm meeting today. We can do them by video, or we can do them by phone, or if you want to come into the office, we'll make that happen. But please reach out for help. We've had a tough year, but we want to help you, and we can get through this together. You can reach us by either calling our phone number and talking to one of our call center representatives that will help you get scheduled with an attorney, or perhaps even connect you directly through to an attorney to talk about your problems. Or you can also go to our website, get more information, and then fill out a form there. So in today's episode, folks, we're going to talk about cybersecurity. I know that things have changed for all of us over the last year, primarily in how we interact with one another. We've learned to do Zoom type meetings. We've learned to handle business through the computer. But as we do that, we're sharing more and more sensitive data via the computer and via the internet. So our guest today is Jeff Freeman. Jeff is the CIO of Cloud Technologies. Jeff is an expert when it comes to cybersecurity. He's my go-to guy. If I have an issue, if my office has an issue, we contact Jeff or we contact Cloud Technologies and we find a solution. Now, Cloud Technologies is based in Birmingham, Alabama, but they do work all over the country. It's something you need to have somebody you trust working with you and your computers and helping you protect your data. So Jeff, thank you and welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brad. I appreciate it.
Jeff, you're my friend and I know a lot about you. I've already tooted your horn here, but for our viewers, share a little bit about your, what I think is a very impressive background and about what you do.
Well, Brad, I've been in the business since 1995. It's the same year my oldest daughter was born. And we've seen an evolution in data change since that point. I mean, I started when there was the Windows 3.1 era. Bill Gates was barely, getting going with his stuff. And ever since then, we have seen quite a bit of change. And then in 2008, the economy took a pretty hard turn. And my boss at the time, Brad McLean, and I got together and said, we're about to be laid off from our job. We really need to do something. And what we wanted to do was to bring enterprise-grade technology to small business. So what we did is we started Cloud Technologies, and from that point forward, we have seen significant growth, especially in the security side of it. So seeing all the different ways that people were able to compromise networks and being able to patch those and help people. It's kind of our background. So we've been doing that for a little over a decade now.
Jeff, you left out an important part there. You also have some very impressive certifications. Share that with our viewers also, your educational background and the certifications you have when it comes to working with technology and working with computers.
Yes, so we are fully Microsoft certified. I'm also a Cisco certified engineer. I've worked on really large networks, buildings that are 1.2 million square feet, putting networks in there and doing RFID type solutions. And have been all over the nation, been to several different countries, putting in computer networks. So, and also our staff here at Cloud is the same way. We really push the certification so everybody knows what they're doing.
Well, and y'all do a great job. So, Jeff, back when I was first introduced to computers, I'm a little bit older than you. High school and college, we had key punch machines where we used, I guess, antiquated programming, punched out key cards, and then ran them through a big mainframe computer. And then in years after that, the personal computer became popular, where we didn't need these big mainframes. We each operated on our own personal computers, PCs. And when I met you for the first time, I guess it was back during that 08, 09 period, you started touting the idea of putting everything in the cloud. And things have evolved since then. But talk generally about that evolution, about how we went from the mainframe to the personal computers back to the cloud and where we are now.
Well, you're seeing a lot of applications that companies use move to the cloud, and the word cloud is a big word, so there's a lot of meaning to that. But when I'm talking about the cloud, I'm talking about maybe a specific application, and maybe we're talking, let's say, QuickBooks. So instead of having QuickBooks running on a server inside your office, so you'll put it out in the cloud or in a data center, which is also the cloud, that allows you to have access from multiple points. So you can send your employees home and work and access the same files as they would as if they were at the office. And so seeing that evolution since the 2008 timeframe, we've also seen phone systems do the same thing. So there's no longer a need to have a phone system in your office. You have a phone system in the cloud that manages multiple offices. So, giving you the capability to have a power outage in one office and still maintain your phone service somewhere else.
And if the resulting problem, and what we want to talk about today, is instead of your information existing on a server in your office or in your facility, it's on the internet. Your financial data, your client data, your customer data is all flowing back and forth on the internet and is off on a cloud server somewhere, or perhaps several servers if that server is replicated. So a lot of people concluded initially, well, heck, I'd rather keep my data here close to me where I can watch over it rather than putting it on a cloud server. Is your information typically safer if it's on your own server that you can kind of guard and watch over?
Yeah, in my opinion, as long as you're following the security safeguards that are provided by any cloud provider, then the security is not an issue. The biggest problem I have is that when all your data is on site, then unless you have a backup in the cloud elsewhere, then if you have some kind of catastrophic issue, like maybe a water line breaks or a fire or a tornado hits, then you're really susceptible to losing that data. So that, to me, makes the data close more vulnerable than it is in the cloud.
Yeah, I was an early convert. I realized that as an attorney, I'm not an IT guy. Having the server in my closet down the hall didn't necessarily make it safer because it was close to me. And I know that information that we store on your cloud server provided by your company has a great deal of security, and in fact, it is replicated. So I feel much more comfortable with it there. So Jeff, I want to jump into a couple of different topics here. So the first one I want to jump into is, what exactly is ransomware? We hear more and more about it in the news today. We hear about large companies paying out big sums of money. Tell us about ransomware. What is it, and how does it get onto our computers?
Sure. So ransomware, also known as malware, it's a form of malware, is it's an issue that people inject on your computer in many different ways. Once it gets on your computer, it encrypts sensitive data. And a lot of times the ransomware is programmed to find specific data like email or databases or some kind of a financial file, and it'll encrypt it, and it will come and tell you, well, your file's been encrypted and now you need to pay a Bitcoin or some money, which is typically Bitcoin, to get your files back. And the way they do that is they have a two-part encryption key. They hold one part, and then if you want to get it decrypted and you pay them, then they'll give you the other part and it'll decrypt the files. So the way that you get the ransomware is, actually there's multiple ways. One of the most popular is via email, and that can be an email coming in that has a link in it that if you click on it, it'll download something in the background and put it on your computer.
Let me jump in here. Before you educated me, I was one of those people. It was probably 8, 9 years ago. You'll remember, I should have known better. I clicked a link in an email I received, and all of a sudden my screen started flashing. And it said, we have control of your computer or something like that, and demanded a payment of Bitcoin at that point, which I had no idea what it was at that point. And I called you for assistance. But folks, it's a frightening thing. And it's really frightening now because the volume of email has increased so dramatically. So, all right, I'm sorry, Jeff. I wanted to interrupt there to let people know it can happen to anyone. So somebody sends you an email, and what happens?
So if you get an email and you click a link, and it might do a few things. So the first thing, it might do nothing. So you think, well, it did nothing, so I'm just going to click this and go on about my way. Well, then, when you're not looking, or when your computer's turned on and you walk away, then all of a sudden in the background, it's going to start encrypting your files, and it's going to be looking for other computers on the network. It's going to be looking for servers, any kind of financial data that you have, and you won't even know it. So another way that they can get you as well is if you have employees working from home and they use remote desktop to come into a server in your office. Unless you have some sort of security measure in place, remote desktop is very vulnerable to getting hacked. And we have seen instances where a company will have remote desktop installed, and an account will be compromised, and somebody will infiltrate the servers, and they'll be on the servers for days. They'll be searching out how many servers you have, where your backups are located, and gaining all the information they can. And then, let's say Friday at 6 p.m., when everybody's going home, they start their attack on you and start encrypting your data, and they wipe out all your backups, and they have now gained all your data. You have no backups, and they're going to want a big Bitcoin payment to give it back to you.
So they're holding your sensitive information hostage, is what they're doing. So if you're a small business owner or a large business owner, as we've learned recently, you need to be aware of what ransomware and malware is, and you need to do all you can to protect it. So, Jeff, that leads to the next question. My employees, the people I work with now, are working remotely. They access their business email via their cell phones, tablets. Um, what needs to be done to protect your business or your individual data from malware or ransomware?
Well, Brad, there's several things you can do. Not one item will stop it 100%, but I'll just kind of run through a few of these items, and we'll start with the most important one. The most important way to stop these type of attacks is to train your employees through phish threat education and testing. And that is by giving them examples and showing them what to look for in an email that is malicious. And then going one step beyond that is to send them some fake malicious emails, emails that won't do anything, but when they come in, the user is going to have to make a choice on whether to click on the link or not. And if they click on this link and they get caught in my little test, and then they're going to go in for more training. And at the end of the day, what it gives you is it gives you a more hardened security from your employees, making choices when they see an email and not clicking on those links. So another way to really help with, let's say, logins that are compromised is to use multi-factor authentication. And so one thing the audience may be very familiar with, if you're on Facebook, how many times have you seen somebody say, my account's been hacked, don't accept a friend request from me? So I see these all the time, and I'm very helpful to people. I'll be glad to tell them. I always tell them, go log in your Facebook settings, turn on multi-factor authentication. I think they call it two-factor authentication. It's the same thing. And basically what that gives you is when you log into Facebook, it sends a code to your cell phone and says, do you accept or reject this login? And you either hit accept or reject, and that allows the login. So if you're not logging in and you get a code pop up, then you know somebody's got your password, but you're not going to allow it, so they're not going to get in. So it adds that additional step in the login process.
And we're certainly seeing more and more of that when I log into my bank, Facebook, as you said, various accounts that I try to log into is set up with that multi-factor authentication, and it's effective. It just gives me a little bit more security when I do it. Question, I'm on my cell phone and I click one of these links. I don't have much sensitive data on my cell phone, so that's not really going to do much harm, is it?
Well, never say never. So there are some malicious programs that will, but they're very few and far between. So more than likely not if you click on it. However, I would be very cautious about, any link from any source, whether it's cell phone, tablet, or your computer. I would be very suspicious, but more than likely not.
They also come in the form of attachments to email often, I know. So again, folks, you need to find somebody, and Cloud Technologies is absolutely an excellent resource where they can train your employees as to what to look for and then test them. Make sure they've learned, make sure they're not clicking suspicious, malicious links in their email or opening attachments they're not familiar with. People can be very creative. I get emails that look like they're from one of my law partners or look like they're from somebody I trust. You have to look carefully before you click anything to make sure it's actually valid. And if you're unsure, call the person that supposedly sent the email to you before you click any attachment and ask. So, Jeff, is it, can't I just put, antivirus software on my computer and protect myself from this? I know most of those now say that they'll protect you from malware. Is that simple? If I do that, am I safe?
Brad, antivirus on your computer is just one barrier, and you really need to take a multi-barrier approach when it comes to the security. So The antivirus on your computer is the computer level barrier. You also have antivirus on your firewall. So anything coming in your gateway, we're going to scan it for viruses or malicious code in the attachments you were just referring to. And another barrier would be on the front side of your email platform. So we're scanning all your email before it even delivers to your mailbox. And we're scanning for not just spam, but we're looking for viruses and any kind of what they call impersonation, where impersonation would be a good example would be if somebody impersonated you trying to have somebody wire money somewhere, and then they sent that email to an employee in your office to do that. So we look for stuff like that. So you have the multi-barrier approach, and that kind of hardens the different layers of security and makes it really tough for them to get through.
Jeff, some of these people out there that are sending the email with these malicious links and with attachments are getting more and more sophisticated. We read in the news about Russian hackers attacking our infrastructure and our large companies. Is that something we're going to be dealing with in the future? Do we have people that are just as smart protecting our own systems? What are your thoughts on the big picture as to where we're going?
Well, Brad, my thoughts on the big picture is that we haven't really seen, what could happen, because right now if you think about ransomware and the way it works, ransomware, when it comes in, it encrypts your files and you pay the Bitcoin, and with that Bitcoin they give you your files back. A ransomware company wouldn't be in business if they didn't get paid, and they wouldn't get paid if they didn't give the files back. But what if you had a company that was just malicious and just wanted to release, havoc on the whole world? How bad would that be? And it could happen. It's a very real possibility. And I think that with all the security companies out there, we're making steps towards protecting things and patching stuff when we find vulnerabilities, and making sure that the end user is protected and educated. But I just think right now we haven't seen the worst to come yet. My favorite part of my job is being able to help businesses set barriers into place so that they don't have to worry on all this cybersecurity stuff that's going on. And when we start doing training and testing with employees, we like to let everybody know, hey, we're going to be doing this testing so that they don't get caught off guard. And you can expect an email to come in. It's going to be fake. It's going to look real. It's going to look like something you would normally receive. And then after we're through the testing and training, the results of that are tremendous. People always tell me, I can't believe that I didn't understand where this email was coming from, and now I know. How did I really miss where this link said? It was totally fake, and I was just about to click on it, and then the training educated me and showed me that it wasn't. So it's a very good, rewarding feeling to see people as they learn and grow. So. I think Brad will be right back.
And I am. I'm sorry about that. Jeff, can you hear me again?
I can hear you. You're good.
I apologize to our viewers. I'll go ahead and acknowledge for everybody that I have not had Jeff's company to my home office where I'm working today. And I will make sure Cloud Technologies gets to my office to help make sure I don't lose the connection in the future. So, Jeff, we talked about the threat to um, our infrastructure, security. It's a big issue. It's something we need to stay on top of. But for our small business owners, for individuals out there, you've made several good points. You've talked about education. You've talked about antivirus software. You've talked about I know on our system, you've installed a feature that checks our email before it even gets to us to make sure that it's not dangerous email. You talked about a firewall. A lot of people use that term, but I'm not sure a lot of people understand exactly what a firewall is. Why is a firewall important and what purpose does it serve?
Well, firewall is important because it's the barrier between the open internet and your office network. And it has rules in place that allows certain type of traffic and disallows all the other traffic. And a good example of that would be web traffic like Google or Yahoo. So you want to allow those types of things to come into your network where your users can work and function and do things. But there's other things that you don't. So you don't want to have give a hacker open access to a computer. You want to shut that down, and you do that through firewalls. Well, over the last 3 to 5 years, firewalls have really changed. And those firewalls are doing things now like content filtering, like blocking out pornographic website access and other different types of categories that you can block as well, like anarchy and any type of racism sites and stuff. You can really knock those out and block access to them. But they also have another feature where the firewalls are smart and they look for malicious data streams flowing to the internet. And what that's looking for really is ransomware reporting back home, sending those encryption keys back to the author of the ransomware. And when it finds that, it shuts that stream down. And that's one very big benefit we've seen with the firewalls of today.
Well, it's fight of technology against technology more and more, and it's good to have somebody like you on our side. Now, one issue we haven't talked about, and I remember back from when I clicked that link years ago, one of the first questions you posed for me is we need to determine whether or not this company that claims to have infected my system actually has. And I know, people receive emails. We've taken control of your webcam. We have private information on you. You better pay us money now. How do you know if your system actually has been infected?
A lot of times the way the ransomware works is that it'll stay dormant. So unless you have a professional look at it, you may not know. So if you think you've been compromised or you have a link that you've clicked on and it did nothing, then you may want to have somebody run a scan on your computer to make sure that it is clean. All else fails on a machine. If let's say we do a scan and you're still concerned about it, then we'll take it a step further and we'll wipe the hard drive, and we'll make sure there's nothing on there that would come back to bite you in the next 30 days or so.
All right, Jeff. What we've talked about several things. Let's take this in two parts, both for individuals and then small businesses. What are the first tips you give to people? What's the most important first step people should take to protect their own computers and their own systems? Is anti-malware, antivirus software essential?
Absolutely. And the biggest thing I see is let's say the home user goes and gets free antivirus. So the free antivirus is great for the pocketbook, but I haven't seen one piece of free software that did anything where it needs to be to protect you. So you really need to get a piece of software for your antivirus. You need to pay for it. You're going to get rewards from paying for it, because it does a lot of different things for you than the free version will. So a lot of those will be that it gives you access to a central or a web portal per se. And what that does, you can watch your web portal and it'll give you a lot of information about your own computer. I mean, it's looking for active malware, active viruses, and it'll tell you if you have one, as long as it'll detect it. It also gives you the ability to lock down the software from being uninstalled, because a lot of viruses get on your computer and the first thing they do is uninstall your antivirus. So we like to keep it password protected. That way it doesn't get uninstalled arbitrarily.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then you also have the ability for a web content filter. So if you have kids and you have a good piece of antivirus, you can block sites for the kids. You really don't want them going to these terrible sites out there and having them get into stuff they don't need to be in. And the last thing, go ahead, Brad.
No, I wanted to make a comment on the free antivirus software. It's just like anything, folks. You get what you pay for. And is all of your personal data, is all of your banking data, is all of that information worth an extra few dollars a month? It absolutely is. That isn't a place to save money. So go on, Jeff. I just wanted to comment on that real quickly.
Well, speaking on the line of the free software, you have the free email accounts as well. And so free email accounts, Gmail, Yahoo, Ymail, whichever one you pick. They're nice to have, but if you're sending banking information over that, please stop, because that's the worst place to send any type of financial information. Because number one, most people have free email accounts, but they don't have two-factor turned on. So if somebody guesses your password, they can log in your email from anywhere in the world and watch your email go through. And a good example of a hijack in this case would be, let's say you're trying to buy a house and you're using your Gmail account to communicate back and forth to the closing attorney, and the closing attorney gives you wiring instructions, and a person is watching your email and they substitute that email with different wiring instructions, then you would absolutely be sending your payment to a different wire than the closing attorney. So it's easy to do. And so, what I suggest is that you get your own domain name. Maybe your family gets a domain name and set up your own email. And that way you can control access to it and you know who's on it. But if you just have to use a free account, it'll at least turn on two-factor authentication. At least do that.
Yeah. Jeff, tremendous information. I want to take a short break here and just remind our viewers, this is the Bon and Botus Facebook Live. We do this every Wednesday at 1:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. These episodes, of course, are broadcast live, but they also live on our Facebook page and on our firm's website. You may be watching now and you may know somebody that could benefit from this information, that needs to hear what Jeff's saying, that needs to listen to this video. You can always refer them back. And please remember that this information is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Last week, we had a fascinating episode with an attorney about how to start up a business and how to bring in new venture capital. Been many views already of that episode, but I certainly encourage you if you're interested in starting up a business or in getting funding together, to watch last week's episode, which is on our Facebook page and is also on our firm's website. These episodes, again, are important to educate people, but at the Bond and Bodas Law Offices, what we do is we help people with money problems. And we know a lot of you are having financial problems right now. I constantly preach to be proactive, reach out for help before things get worse. You don't want your home foreclosed on. You don't want your automobile repossessed. You don't want your wages garnished. If you contact us well before any of that helps, we can protect you. We want to help you avoid a straight bankruptcy. We make a living filing bankruptcies, but we want to help you avoid that. If we can help you restructure things, get things back in line, work your way out of debt, that's our objective at the Bond and Bodas Law Offices. We're located throughout Alabama. We're located throughout Mississippi, offering absolutely free initial consultations, and we'll do them by phone or video if you're more comfortable with that. We're here today with a technology expert, Jeff Freeman with Cloud Technologies, Inc., to talk about malware, to talk about ransomware, and to talk about cybersecurity in general. Jeff has already answered a lot of great questions, but Jeff, we're starting to have a few questions come in from our viewers, and we always like to pass these through to you. So I've got a list from here, and I'm going to feed them to you one at a time, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So this person must be a small business owner, and the question is, should I install monitoring software on my staff's computers to protect my business?
Well, monitoring software is, it's good to be able to watch what they're doing and basically what are you going to get out of that? Are you going to get, you're going to be able to watch everything they're doing all the time? Are you going to be able to see the keystrokes they're in? Are you going to look at screenshots they're in? It's really going to take a lot of time to monitor what they're doing. But if you have a firewall in place, to me, that would be the better approach because you can give them access to what they need and lock down the access to what they don't need. And that, what's the best way to stop a thief is not to give them anything to steal. So that to me would be the better approach.
This person also had a subpart to their question. They asked, do I need permission to do this, to monitor my staff? Maybe more of a legal question, but do you have any general advice on that?
Well, just in my experience for quite a while, I've answered this question before, but the data that's inside your company's network is your company's data. It's not your personal employees' data. Even if they have their personal financial statements on your computer, it's still your information, in my opinion. So what you do on your network is your business.
Well, I think that's probably accurate information, but I would caution my viewers, if you're doing this, you may want to consult with an attorney that has some expertise in this area. And as I always tell folks, that's not my area of expertise. I'm a bankruptcy attorney, but I'm an old bankruptcy attorney, which means I know a lot of other attorneys. If you have a legal question, something like this, don't hesitate to contact me. Give me a call, send me an email, and I will be glad to either try to answer your question or get you to somebody that's qualified to answer that question for you. Jeff, question, how can I lock down privacy controls to prevent my staff from downloading malware or ransomware?
Well, privacy controls aren't really going to help you with the malware because it's going to come in many, many different ways. Privacy is not going to stop everywhere. So what we were talking about earlier is the multi-barrier approach. You have to have the barriers in place to help stop these types of attacks. If you think about if a hacker is trying to hack you, if they're targeting your employees, the harder you make it on them, the more likely they are to go to somebody else who's not. So they're going to take the easiest targets that have the biggest payload. So if you set those multi-barriers in place, there's really not a need for your privacy controls.
And those multi-barriers that we've discussed earlier, a good firewall, good education for your staff, testing for your staff, and good antivirus software. Not the free stuff, but the good stuff that you can get from my friend Jeff at Cloud Technologies. Next question. Are there email scanning tools I can use to stop the phishing scams? I think we've probably answered that, but maybe you can expand on that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of spam filters out there that do the scanning for you. Of course, you can't use the free email when you have a spam filter. So you have to have your own domain name, your own email platform. But the spam filter will scan those for you. It won't stop 100% of these threats because they change every day. It's just impossible to do it. So yeah, that's the reason for your user education. But it will stop quite a bit of the scams and stuff coming through. And as it grows, it learns your users' trends and capabilities and who they're emailing and who they're not emailing, and it really knows your network. So after a while, your spam filter will know you better than you probably know yourself.
Right. Got it. I'll give you a chance here with this question to sell your services, Jeff. What's the best type of training for my staff on security best practices?
Okay, so if you're talking about training for security and best practice, then we have a great phishing threat and security training format that we send out. So we have hundreds of different training modules that we send out. You guys can approve what we send or just give us the go ahead, and we have a great way to send that out and kind of train everybody individually. They're little 2 to 5 minute videos that will train the user what to look for in an email. It'll actually train your operators what to do for a scam phone call, and just all kinds of different things. And then after that, we send out testing emails, and those emails come in, and it might look like an Apple email asking you for your credentials, and it will look real. But there'll be indicators inside that email that we've trained them to look for already that they'll need to be looking for. And if they don't look for those and they fall for the scam, then it automatically enrolls them in another set of training to reinforce what was taught before. And then at the end of the day, we give reports out back to the management to say what employees were tricked to get into this, how they've been performing on their training, and who the good employees are and who the bad employees are. And then you can, if you have someone that's really struggling with it, you can do sit down 101s with them and try and really reinforce that knowledge.
Jeff, you mentioned the indicators to look for. I've been through some of your training, so I know some of those indicators, but what are some of the big indicators that an email that you may have received should be treated as suspicious?
I had one just the other day that came in. Customer received an email from what looked to be a McAfee antivirus wanting $500 for their annual McAfee subscription. And the email had all of McAfee's logos in it. It had the correct phone numbers in there for McAfee. It had a link that was not real. And if you hover over the link, you'll see that it doesn't point to a McAfee website. And also the email that it was sent from said it was from McAfee, but it was from a Gmail address. So both you and I know McAfee is not going to use Gmail to send email out asking for money. So at that point, I knew it was an instant fake.
Now, I've gotten a lot better at picking those out thanks to your training, but there's certainly a lot of them that I receive on a daily basis. All right, good question. This next one, what are your tips, Jeff, for creating a good password?
Well,
is 1, 2, 3, 4 a good one?
A 1234 is not a good password. Any kind of password that you can read to me is not a good password. So my recommendation is that you use a password management system. Using a password management system allows you to create passwords that can be 50, 100 characters long. They can make no sense. They can have characters in them, and you are nowhere, nowhere ever will you need to remember them, because the password management system will take care of that for you. And you implement that on your cell phone, on your desktop, your laptop, and everywhere you get on the internet, and you will have access to any account that you need. That's my first recommendation. The second recommendation is, if you don't want to do a password manager, then when you create your passwords, make them strong. Give them numbers, letters, uppercase, lowercase, characters. But at the end of the day, turn on two-factor authentication for whatever account that you have, because that will reinforce the security measure that you're trying to establish with a long password.
So I want to ask a couple follow-up questions of my own there. I know people that will create a variety of different passwords, and then they'll write them all down and leave a list of those passwords in their desk drawer. Probably not a good idea, correct?
No, they leave them in their desk drawers. They tape them to the bottom of their keyboard. Sometimes they'll put a sticky note on their monitor with their password on it so everybody can see it. Or everybody uses the same username and password of the entire office, and then that's not a good idea either.
So, Jeff, if I use a password manager, if somebody finds the password to my password manager, I'm in a bad spot, aren't I? Is there
Yes.
to protect against that?
If they get your master password for your password manager, that would not be a good thing. So when you create your master password, you need to store that somewhere that no one can get to it. So there's a number of places you can put it. And you can also not list it as, if you store it as a file on your computer, don't name the file master password for password manager.
Or ant password in my context. That's probably not a good idea. Well, hey, I think you've already answered the next question. This person must not have seen the previous question, because the question is, do password managers really work? Do you want to add anything to that?
I will answer that. They not only work, they are fantastic. They are great for security. We have a password manager that we use. Contact me. I'll tell you all about it. We'll show it to you, let you see how it works. But it's made for the corporate environment. It integrates personal information in there if you want it to. They are fantastic, and I cannot go. Did I say they were great? I mean, it's a wonderful tool that we use, and it's by a really, really good manufacturer of software. So I trust it.
Jeff, what about the password managers offered by these free email services like Gmail or Google? And I guess it's the browser itself that offers them. I know from my experience, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, probably some others will allow you to store your passwords. Is that as safe?
No, because you can go into the browser and pull your password out and see it. And if you can do that, if malware gets on your computer, so can they. Right. So the password manager takes over the browser password cache when you install it, and those go away. But then you have your password manager to handle it.
Got it. Next question. How can I tell if my business or personal computers have been compromised? I think you may have addressed this, but maybe you need to expand upon it. I know your answer was, if you're suspicious, to talk to somebody like yourself, a professional. Can't I just update my virus software and then scan my computer? Is that not sufficient in most cases, Jeff?
No, not really. What we would do if a customer asked us to do that, the first thing we would do would be to install some antivirus software on there that we know works well and has the web portal that the machines will phone home to. And that way we can run scans across the network without having to touch each computer individually. And it also gives us a lot of data as far as what's going on the computer, because the antivirus that we have scans your active processes, and it looks for processes running that are malicious or known ransomware type processes. So it really gives us a good indication. But it does take a couple of days, though, to get that type of information, especially if you have quite a few computers.
Now, let me add, say it's just, say it's my aunt or my mother that's working on her own personal computer, and she's concerned, or I'm concerned, based upon what I've been told, that their computer may be infected. At what point is it important for an individual with their personal computer to contact a professional to have their computer scanned?
Well, if they have a lot of data on their computer that's sensitive, let's say financial data like Quicken, some home-based financial software, then I wouldn't go, if you don't know how to scan it yourself with some good software, contact a company that will. It's very important. But if all you do is, surf the internet, you don't buy anything on the computer, you don't have any stored credit card information, then, you can try and do it yourself. But, at the end of the day, you really need, if you want to be, 100% on it, you need to let a professional look at it so they can make sure that you're not infected.
So this next question, we must have done a good job of let some small business owners know that they've got some things to be concerned about. This individual wants to know, how can I contact Jeff or get some help with my computer system? So what's the best way to contact you or Cloud Technologies, Jeff?
At the bottom of the screen, you'll see my direct number. You can call me at that number, and if I'm not available, just leave me a voicemail and I will call you back promptly. If it's an emergency, our main number is 205-484-2400. Press option 2 for tech support. Let them know that you saw us on this channel here, and we'll make sure we get somebody to help you.
Now, to our viewers, I endorse Jeff and the work at Cloud. They've got some great folks there. Brad, who Jeff referenced earlier, in addition to having a great name, is a great guy and can help. And you got one guy there named Steve that I know is really good with answering questions. So make sure you ask for Brad or Jeff or Steve, and he'll help you out. Jeff, I'm going to talk about our law firm a little bit more, but before we finish, I want to be respectful of your time. I'm going to ask you if there's anything I've missed, anything important to get out to our viewers. So get ready for that. But to our viewers, we want to thank you for joining us with this and every Facebook Live event. We do these every Wednesday at 1:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. We try to have interesting guests. I'm confident that we absolutely had an interesting guest today. I know that some of our previous episodes have received many, many, many views. So if you know somebody that could benefit from the information that we discussed with Jeff Freeman at Cloud Technologies today, refer them back to our Facebook page or direct them to the Bond & Bodis website. The Bond & Bodis website has all of our videos and a lot of other additional information. If you are somebody located in Alabama or Mississippi and you are concerned about financial issues going forward, maybe your mortgage has been in forbearance. Maybe you're worried about that forbearance period ending and what's going to happen with your past due mortgage payments. Maybe you're somebody that just has had very limited income over the last year. You're getting ready now. You found a good job. You're getting ready to go back to work, and you're worried about a wage garnishment. Be proactive. Please reach out for help. The Bond & Bodis law offices are located throughout Mississippi and Alabama. At this point, offering presentations with a licensed and experienced attorney. You won't be talking to a paralegal. You won't be talking to a secretary. You will be scheduled or connected directly through to an experienced attorney to just talk about your financial issues, to answer questions. Again, our objective, and I know it's counterproductive, we're bankruptcy attorneys, but our objective is to keep you out of a straight bankruptcy if we can. We want you to keep your home. We want to help you get caught up on your mortgage payments. We want to help you deal with the issues that are out there. Again, please either go to our website or call the number that we've listed on the screen here several times and just arrange for a free conversation with an experienced attorney and make sure that you're protected going forward. We've been very fortunate today to discuss cybersecurity, to discuss ransomware, malware with my go-to guy, an expert, Jeff Freeman. Jeff is with Cloud Technologies, which is located in Birmingham, Alabama, but which does business and helps small businesses throughout the country. And Jeff's even said he's traveled overseas to do this type work. I highly endorse Jeff and his company, encourage you to reach out to them if you have questions about your security and the computer systems, either your personal computers or your business computers. Jeff, I want to give you a chance. As I said, I probably missed something important here. What are your last words of wisdom to our viewers about cybersecurity and how to protect their computers?
Well, Brad, the last piece I had, especially for the small business side of things, is that we have firewalls now in place that create what we call a security heartbeat. And the security heartbeat is a connection between the firewall and the workstation, and they talk to each other in milliseconds. So they're always talking to each other. And if a workstation becomes infected, the firewall will tell all the other workstations in the network, do not talk to that workstation because it's infected. And it will also block it from going out to the internet. So why is that important? Well, that's important because ransomware gets on one computer in your office and it tries to search the rest of the network and find other payloads or other places. And this type of technology stops it in its tracks. That's the last piece I had to get out.
Well, folks, we have some smart people on our side, like Jeff. There are some smart hackers out there, but we have smart people on our side too. I know Jeff, and I know he echoes me at Bonnie Bodas Law Offices. Our faith's important to us. I know the same goes for Jeff. We want you to focus on your faith, your family, and your finances. We want to help you. We thank you for joining us here today. Jeff, you've been a great guest. We appreciate it. Until next week, Facebook viewers, we'll see you. Best wishes to all of you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Brad.